After an entire year of no Marvel content, we are finally in the midst of getting some amazing Marvel content. But this video isn't about 2021. In fact, it is looking back at the previous years of Marvel. They've had an incredible run, even without 2020. They've had just tremendous success. So today's video is going to be ranking every single year of the MCU. Now, it's important to establish what my criteria is because a lot of people can do this same exact ranking but have different criteria and have different rankings altogether. So my criteria is not going to be based on financial success at all because obviously Avengers Endgame, Spider-Man Far From Home, and Captain Marvel all came out in the same year, and yeah, that's almost $5 billion. For me, it's going to be quality. And overall as a year, how did we feel about being Marvel fans in that particular year based on the types of movies that we got? So yeah, I'm going to be going from 2008 to 2019, of course excluding 2009 because no Marvel content came out that year. And like I said, I'm going to be ranking each year based on how I felt overall as a Marvel fan from January to December, as well as the quality of the films that came out. Everybody ready? All right, let's get ranking. Of the 11 years of active Marvel content, coming in at number 11 is 2010. And for those of you who don't remember, 2010 saw the release of Iron Man 2. And just Iron Man 2. Now, no hate on Iron Man 2 as a film. I mean, I don't like it a lot, but I don't think it's the worst MCU film or even the worst film ever made. You can see my review where I talk about how Iron Man 2 has a lot of potential. It's just, well, it's one of the only years where we only got one film, and that one film happened to be Iron Man 2. Obviously, coming off the success of the first Iron Man, everyone was so excited to see the sequel, and the sequel was, yeah, it was a little disappointing. So to have that film be the only thing that came out that year, yeah, overall, 2010 was a little bit of a disappointing year. Not gonna lie. Now, coming in at the number 10 spot is the year 2011, which saw Thor and Captain America the First Avenger. Okay, everybody hold the phone, because this is where this list gets subjective. I know plenty of people who enjoy the first Thor film. In fact, I know some people who absolutely love the first Thor film. And I know an enormous amount of people who just adore Captain America the First Avenger. I really like Captain America the First Avenger. I do. I don't think I can say the same thing about Thor. I don't necessarily like that film that much. But let's not kid ourselves. Those aren't bad films by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, both are good, even great. So why is 2011 so far down the list? Well, like I mentioned before, I don't like these films as much as a lot of people do. Again, all you First Avenger fans out there, I like the film quite a bit. But compared to the rest of the MCU, to me, it doesn't hold up quite as well. I am going to hear it in the comments. I am ready for it, but just my personal take. You can watch my review. I give it a very good score. And overall, you have these two origin story films, which, yes, origin films are good in the MCU, and the MCU really nailed down how to build up the hero in their first film. We really got to see Thor and Captain America come into their own as they went along in the MCU. But these first iterations of the characters aren't necessarily my favorite. I think the beginning Steve Rogers is pretty great, but the beginning Thor, I really just want to forget about him, to be honest. And so in a year where only two Marvel films came out and they were both origin stories sort of setting up what the Avengers was going to be, and really just being a precursor to the culmination of Phase 1 in the Avengers, it wasn't necessarily my favorite year to be an MCU fan. Not saying that the films were bad and that, I had a horrible time watching either of them, absolutely not, just saying that compared to some of the other years, not my favorite. Again, Captain America First Avenger lovers out there, though, tell me about it in the comments because, yeah, you're going to tell me about it. Coming in at number 9 is 2013, which saw Iron Man 3 and Thor the Dark World. And here come the First Avenger lovers again because, I totally just ranked 2013 above 2011. Now, hear me out, which some of you probably won't, but that's okay because this is my list. I think Iron Man 3 and Thor the Dark World are interesting. I don't think they're boring films. I think Thor is a very boring film, and Captain America the First Avenger, to me, is a pretty safe origin film by today's standards. I understand that when it came out, it was pretty great and pretty original, but by today's standards, we've seen plenty of the origin story films. So at least Iron Man 3 went for something else completely different. I think 2013 was a year where we were coming off the high that was the Avengers, and we were just ready to see any MCU content. And so when we got Iron Man 3 and Thor the Dark World, we were like, oh, yeah, these are fun. But these aren't super great either, but they're fun. And yeah, in hindsight, these films aren't my favorite in comparison to a lot of the other films. That being said, They are different films, and they are continuing the stories of these characters that have already been established in their previous origin story films. Those of you who think I'm crazy for liking Thor the Dark World over Thor, I don't hate Thor the Dark World. You can see my review about it. I think it is fine. And Iron Man 3 has some flashes of brilliance and, to me, some flashes of mediocrity. So what sets 2013 apart from 2011 is that it is unique. I think 2011 is very safe and origin story film-y, which, by the way, is not Marvel's fault. Of course they had to set up their characters. I'm just looking at it with the benefit of hindsight, of course. But 2013 saw Marvel taking chances. Some very interesting chances with this guy as the villain for Thor the Dark World. That wasn't good. But they took some chances. And I enjoy both of those films, to an extent. Coming in at number 8 is 2008, which had Iron Man 1 and The Incredible Hulk. I really enjoy Iron Man 1. I do. I do not enjoy The Incredible Hulk. It is probably one of my least favorite MCU films. I try. I just can't. And again, Iron Man 1 is a brilliant film, but by comparison with some of the other MCU films, again, by no fault of its own, Iron Man 1 feels like the first step. It is a brilliant film, though. It truly is a brilliant film. It just has the burden of being the first one. Add to that The Incredible Hulk, and, well, 2008 was up and down, to say the least, for me. It was a great beginning for Marvel. I want to forget about The Incredible Hulk. I know a lot of you guys like the film, and I'm glad you do. I just don't. And I think 2008 spoke volumes about how well Marvel was setting off at the beginning, but also how much potential it had to go from there. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Coming in at number 7 is 2015, which saw The Avengers, Age of Ultron, and Ant-Man. To me, two pretty solid films. I do enjoy Age of Ultron, I do. And I really actually do like Ant-Man quite a bit. To me, are they as good as the rest of the films in their series? Not a chance. Because Age of Ultron really does just feel like Avengers Light to me. I've said that before in my review. It just feels like a shelled down version of the Avengers. It's still a great time. Listen, if you're going to try to copy a good film, chances are you are also going to get a good film. As for the first Ant-Man, it was funny, creative, pretty bold in a certain sense. And although I like Ant-Man and the Wasp a little bit better, I do really enjoy the first Ant-Man. In a way, these two films are very similar in terms of quality, but sort of different in where their franchise trajectories are. The Avengers Age of Ultron was sort of a step back from the glory that was the first Avengers. It was sort of Marvel fans realizing that, oh, well, yeah, the sequel doesn't have to be better than the original, although we wish it were. However, the first Ant-Man was more of a, well, Ant-Man can be cool. And the second film can be better than the original because, yeah, the concept is really cool. So overall, I actually really dig these two films. I just think that there was a lot of potential for both of them that wasn't realized in them specifically, but was realized later on in their respective franchises. So 2015 comes in at number 7. Coming in at number 6 is 2012. Yes, 2012 is the only other year aside from 2010 that there was only one movie released. However, unlike 2010, this movie was The Avengers. And The Avengers is awesome. While it may only have been one movie, this was the culminating movie of the previous 5 films. It all led up to this, and boy, did it not disappoint. You had disparate characters, Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, Black Widow, Hawkeye, and the Hulk, all coming together to fight Loki. It was a brilliant movie. I mean, for Marvel, while, yes, it may not have been the best movie in my opinion, The Avengers and 2012 as a whole stood for one of the biggest pivotal points in Marvel's history. Without The Avengers working, the MCU didn't work as a whole. 2012 was huge. However, it is just one movie, and The Avengers is not my favorite movie of the MCU. That's why it's pretty much in the middle, but again, I recognize it is a very important year for Marvel. Coming in at number 5 is 2016 with Captain America Civil War and Doctor Strange. Yeah, this is where it starts to get really good because those two movies are two of my favorite in the MCU, and the fact that it's at number 5, that ought to tell you something about all the great years that Marvel has had. But let's talk about 2016. Now, 2016 as a whole, it was very close between 5 and 4. Trust me, I went back and forth, back and forth. It's essentially a coin flip between 5 and 4, but 2016 was a huge year for Marvel because Captain America Civil War really showed what the Russo brothers were capable of, and they made a bonkers, crazy good film. Captain America Civil War was my favorite MCU film for a long time, and it still is one of my favorites of the MCU. It had everything. It had basically the entire Avengers put into it, but somehow it was still a Captain America movie. That to me remains incredible to this day. And of course, Spider-Man, and of course Black Panther, rest in peace Chadwick Boseman, And the airport battle, Giant Man, Bucky, Cap versus Iron Man at the end. The movie was just fantastic. But on top of that, they had Doctor Strange come out that year. And guys, I actually really like Doctor Strange. As far as origin films go, it is pretty decent. It holds up pretty well each and every time I see the film. And Doctor Strange, while generic in some parts, also tried a lot of different and new things. Again, if you look at it really closely with close examination, it is kind of generic, yes, but the visuals, the style, the tone, it was all pretty different for Marvel. It was a bold jump into a new era of Phase 3. So I commend them for that. 2016, trust me, even though it's number 5, was a great year for Marvel. And just barely edging out 2016 for me is 2014 with Captain America the Winter Soldier and Guardians of the Galaxy. For some people, this might be their favorite year of Marvel, and I understand that, because these two films are amazing. They are amazing in themselves, but they are also amazing because just like 2016, it showed Marvel steadying itself and really asserting itself in the comic book movie genre. Captain America the Winter Soldier is one of the most groundbreaking superhero movies in the past decade. It showed the true potential of what a super soldier like Captain America in the modern day could be. A political spy thriller. And then to jump from that 4 months later to a sci-fi space film in Guardians of the Galaxy, a goofy comedy, which brought together 5 disparate characters that didn't need their own films, by the way. It just all worked in one movie. That's incredible. 2014 was the year when everyone really started to pay attention to Marvel. If you weren't already paying attention to Marvel in 2012, and 2013 was quote-unquote a down year for Marvel, 2014 brought it right back. It was a fantastic year, and it set the tone for what was to come in the future. Now we head into the top 3, and they're basically interchangeable to me, guys. Trust me, it was super difficult to rank these because these were all great years to be a Marvel fan. So, coming in at number 3 is 2019 with Captain Marvel, Avengers Endgame, and Spider-Man Far From Home. Oh, it was so close. It's so close to being 1. It's so close to being 2. It just barely landed on number 3. To be quite honest with you, it's probably because of Captain Marvel, which I've said time and time and time again. I do not hate Captain Marvel. Do not quote me on hating Captain Marvel. I don't. I actually do enjoy the film quite a bit. But it doesn't hold a candle to Avengers Endgame and Spider-Man Far From Home. And compared to the other movies that are on the list in the 1 and 2 slot, it just doesn't hold up that well. But then you have Avengers Endgame and Spider-Man Far From Home. Although, if you haven't noticed, their predecessors, Infinity War and Homecoming, are not on the list yet. And to me, I actually like Infinity War and Homecoming a little bit more. But that's no knock on this year because 2019 was the culmination of everything. And that alone was this close to making it number 1. I just have to look at the movies individually and see how I felt about them. And yes, I love Endgame, I love Far From Home, I like Captain Marvel, but man, these other years are stacked. So 2019 is going at the number 3 spot. Ask me tomorrow, it could be number 1. Coming in at number 2, and this was even closer. And I put this at number 1 for a while. I sat with it, I thought about it, and I moved it down at the last second, 2017. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Spider-Man Homecoming, Thor Ragnarok. Oh boy, what a year for Marvel. Spider-Man Homecoming is one of my all-time favorite MCU movies, period. It is one of my all-time favorite Marvel movies. Thor Ragnarok is also one of my all-time favorite Marvel movies. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, I actually liked a lot more this time around during the Infinity Saga rewatch. It wasn't top tier for me, certainly not, but it was really good and a solid film, had emotion, had heart. The Yondu scene at the end really sealed the deal for me. I like Guardians 2 a lot. And again, Homecoming and Thor Ragnarok. So comparing 2017 and 2019, what you have is basically Homecoming lining up with Far From Home, which I think it's better than. Thor Ragnarok lining up with Avengers Endgame, which I think Thor Ragnarok is worse than Avengers Endgame, but not by a ton, really. And Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 lining up with Captain Marvel, which I think Guardians 2 is actually pretty decently better than Captain Marvel, which is why 2017 just barely edges out 2019. But of course, coming in at number 1, 2018. Black Panther, Avengers Infinity War, Ant-Man and the Wasp. This was the year to be a Marvel fan. This was it. I think Black Panther is a phenomenal film. I truly loved Black Panther, both when I saw it, but I gained an even deeper appreciation for it in the rewatch. I think it is a brilliantly made film. Yes, CGI rhinos and yes, CGI final fight, pretty terrible. Other than that, I have very little to complain about. Avengers Infinity War, it's just the gold standard of the MCU to me. I love the film to death. And you know what? Ant-Man and the Wasp, I really like. I like it more than the original, and I like it more than a lot of the other MCU films. I just had a great time watching the movie. So again, comparing it to 2017 and 2019, well, what you have is Avengers Infinity War lining up with Spider-Man Homecoming, which I think Infinity War is a little better than Spider-Man Homecoming. Then you had Black Panther lining up with Thor Ragnarok, which I think Black Panther is a little bit better than Thor Ragnarok. And then you had Ant-Man and the Wasp lining up with Guardians 2, and I think Ant-Man and the Wasp is a little better than Guardians 2. Just barely edging out 2017 is 2018. I think 2018, for me, was the best year for Marvel and to be a Marvel fan. And again, like I said, 2018, 2017, 2019, I mean, can you imagine that 3-year stretch? How we got quality movie after quality movie, Guardians 2, Spider-Man Homecoming, Thor Ragnarok, Black Panther, Avengers Infinity War, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Captain Marvel, Avengers Endgame, Spider-Man Far From Home. That was the time. And I think they still got it. They got all the momentum heading their way, and I cannot wait for the future of Marvel. So, what was your favorite year of Marvel? Leave it in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. While you're at it, please make sure to subscribe and give this video a like. And if you like this video, check out the other videos on the screen right now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.